Hi folks, welcome to Performantas microlearning session. In today's session, we are going to discuss about disaster recovery testing on SAP. So first, let's try to understand what is disaster recovery testing. So most enterprises manage their whole infrastructure stack on a particular geographic location, and mostly it will be where their headquarters is located. If it's on the central region, they manage all their infrastructure on the central region. It could be a cloud-based infrastructure or it could be an on-prem infrastructure. But they manage that on one particular region. So what happens if a disaster strikes that region? How are they going to continue their business? What is that business continuity plan? The answer to that is the disaster recovery plan. In a disaster recovery plan scenario, the enterprise will manage their whole infrastructure stack on not just one region, but they manage the exact replica on a different region. And all the data that gets created on the primary region gets replicated to the disaster recovery region. And when a disaster hits the central region, it goes off, all the system goes down when a disaster happens, right? The business will have the ability to switch over the traffic from the central region to the east region, and the business will continue after a disruption of 2-3 hours. Time taken to do the switch over, right? So once that time is over, the business will continue on the east region without any impact. So that's the idea behind the disaster recovery plan. In order for an enterprise to get this capability, they have to do a lot of rigorous testing. So those are the things that we are going to cover in this session. So what are the types of testing? What are the type of areas? What are the technical areas that needs to be covered as part of the disaster recovery testing? We can go one by one. First, the replication. First, they have to maintain both these regions, and the configurations needs to be like for like, and the sizing has to be the exact same. And third important thing is the data replication. The data should be replicated from the primary server to the east region close to real time. When a disaster happens, all the data should be intact on the east region and they can continue their business without any issues. Make sure the data replication happens close to real time. The second important thing is the recovery time objective. So how much time it takes for the company to flip from the central region to the east region. It's not like just plug and play, right? It needs to be orchestrated in an ideal fashion. There's a list of steps that they have to follow. If they change a step or sometimes they miss out even a single step, it's not going to work on the east region. So they need to have a detailed run book. And most of the times in the first attempt they might see a problem, second item they might fix that problem, they might encounter a whole different problem. So after a sequence of different trial and errors, right, so the S4, the basis team, has to come up with a detailed run book explaining the steps as how they are going to do the DR. What are the sequence of steps that they have to execute when a DR happens, and the time taken for this entire sequence of steps to complete, right? That's what we call it as the recovery time objective. How much time it takes to recover. And the next one is the recovery point objective. Right? There are different scenarios, different connected systems, right? So how much time it takes for each of those business scenarios to recover, or the application component to recover. That's called the recovery point objective. So that's another measure. The next one is the performance measure. How is the performance when the server was in central region? That's your BAU, business as usual performance, right? And you also need to measure how the performance looks like when the server is moved to the east region. In some cases, they don't move the entire distributed system with all the different components. They don't move it to, sometimes they do move. So in some cases, they move only the core component like the SAP stack, right? So in such cases, there will be a lot of connected components to SAP, and when SAP is just switched from primary to DR region, right? So how much time it takes, how much latency is experienced by the DR region, right? So measuring the latency is also important. And the fourth thing that needs to be measured is the data loss. When the flip has happened, and especially in a system like SAP, right? Enterprise companies that are using SAP, they make sure like wherever they could build a asynchronous capability, right? They try to build it. So SAP, if you take as a system, it handles synchronous request, asynchronous request or the IDOCs, and you also have the SAP OData. So when the flip happens, how much percentage of data loss is experienced by synchronous request? It's going to be 100% failure, there's no doubt about it. Asynchronous, the IDOCs, like how much percentage of loss your application will experience, right? That part we need to measure. And OData, again, OData will be a synchronous call, so it will also see 100% failure. So the data loss is another key measure that we need to measure as part of this disaster recovery testing. So there are 5 measures. Measure number 1, your recovery time objective, recovery point objective, the performance measure of both your primary region as well as the DR region, and then the latency, and last your data loss. So these 5 key measures needs to be taken into account while certifying a disaster recovery testing. So that's for today. If you want to learn more about disaster recovery testing, feel free to reach out to me. I can give you a more detailed explanation. I've executed disaster recovery testing for 2 of my clients, so I can share about some of the common challenges that you encounter and give you more insight on how to do DR testing as part of your performance testing strategy. Thank you and happy learning. Bye.